Journal 39, The Frosbite Journals, an autobiographical journal series by Dionysius L. Granucci, aka Adam Snowflake. Journal 39. Real life's nasty. It's cruel. It doesn't care about heroes and happy endings and the way things should be. In real life, bad things happen. People die, fights are lost, evil often wins. Quote by Darren Shawn. So I keep saying I'm going to write a children's book series about my dog Dakota. For those who need a briefer, Dakota is a mixed mutt that we rescued. He is a very, very gorgeous dog, and he's overweight. This is due to a lack of walking and overfeeding. It's not healthy for a dog to be this way. We're working on it. Trust me, we know. I include photos in this entry because I'll need them anyways for the artist to draw. I'm thinking I'm going to get my mother to draw out the art for the book. I want to write a full chapter book. I have a hard time writing anything that isn't short stories. The narratives I want to tell are simply not long ones. I sigh heavily. I sigh a lot. It's my main go-to body language. I keep saying I'm going to write this story, and I'm going to write this story, and then I fail to. I did get some writing done. Like my YouTube videos, I would like to share some of it with you. I wished for a better life. That's probably where I should start off. I wished to be something special. My childhood was good. Up until my teenage years, I had a father and a mother who loved me. I've just never fully gotten people. I've just never fully felt human. My name is Warren Gage. I'm a psychic vampire. So I know what you're thinking. What in the world is that? I'm a creature who feeds off the life force of other people in a gothic style. I'm in many ways a predator. I'm in many ways a leech. I do consume blood from donors, people who sacrifice themselves to me. The blood holds the chi, prana, mainly force. That's what we call it, and I zap it by drinking. Needles and threads are often involved. It's not like in the movies. I don't just zap civilians or go after hookers on the edge. I wish it was like that. No, it's a simple life, if not a dull one. I wished for a better life when I was 15 years old. I hated what I was and how I worked, and I so lonely craved something more. That's when I discovered what I was. Psychic vampire's age, but if you were to look at me in the mirror despite living for 60 years, I look not a day over 20. Also, we tend to be beautiful, or at least average. There are fat and disabled feeders, but we tend to look more aesthetically pleasing over time. Remy Harvey was my young 20-something teacher, my mentor. Originally, he taught my high school. When I graduated and grew up, I visited the place, finding him in that same old classroom. Much like myself, he hadn't aged. We were on par with each other, infatuated with him I had become. I confronted him, and that's where my story began. The life of a feeder, someone who takes. I latched onto Remy. He meant the world to me, holding my dark hands in his petite light ones, looking into the eyes of a man who's known me since I was a child, yet didn't age like myself, placing us on equal edge. It was stuttering that left my lips when I met him that day. End quote. I at first was torn between wanting a 20-year-old protagonist and wanting a 15-year-old protagonist, so my compromise was a Damien Salvatore situation with the face. That's what I call it, a Damien Salvatore situation. A character that, regardless of their actual age, could be seen in early 20s or a teenager depending on who they're talking to. But the character, despite being young passing, is 20. I don't write pedophilia, but I tend to hyperproject on my art. Assuming that art can be separated from the artist is very naive. Everything is inherently political. You could squeeze political out of Tetris for fuck's sake. All art has background to it, because it has background. This background can be constructed in different ways. The background often reflects the artist and how they lived, and political views were a part of that. Thus, all art has a background. Sometimes it's more overt, sometimes it's subtle, but its background is culture. Culture is not without politics. Everything is political because nothing exists in a void. Everything carries some kind of connotation. Excluding gay people marrying from a game with marriage could be considered a political move because even though that facet of the game is background, gay marriage unfortunately is inherently political. While not meaning to, you made a stance by choosing to exclude it. This really happened in real life with Nintendo's Tomodachi Life. Their stance as a company was to be apolitical, and by trying to do that they made a stance overtly many times that they would not include gay people. When your existence is deemed a political stance, it is impossible to be of such. Adam Snowflake. Everything has background. Everything has a history. The history of women's clothing and men's clothing have political histories. So when you make an article about clothing, whether aware of those politics or not, those politics inherently affect the clothing you're talking about. Thus, the clothing has a political past and a political past. So to separate the artist from the art means to assume that one art is not a reflection of their politics. Most people don't go into art trying to make a political statement, but people have politics. People have background. To assume that their history and their background is never inflicted upon their art they create is naive at best, foolish at worst. Everyone has a history which was shaped by our culture, which was shaped by the past century politics. So no, you can't separate an artist from the art because that art is of the artist's history and life experiences. If they weren't who they were, they would never be able to create that piece you enjoy so much. But the artist is sexist, racist, a social justice warrior, mean, or a homophobe. Yes, and that's probably made its way into their art subtly. You can still like the thing. Nobody is telling you can't. We're just asking you to understand why some people are afraid to interact with the thing. My art is a reflection of me, my interests, my tastes, obscure hobbies I enjoy, and references I like to hide. It's that way for every artist ever. So to look at all that and go, doesn't seem like it reflects you, is what you're saying and when you say art is apolitical. I'm not trying to brainwash you or turn you to the left, but I think the mentality of, it's not my job to educate you, turns people away from learning in the first place. So I explained the liberal and left-leaning stance on art being political to you. You may have even disagreed with every word I said, but I explained it to you. I'm a very problematic person. I've made some major mistakes. I have a history where I've been abused by people in power, hospital staff, and by siblings, verbally abused for months nonstop on end, manipulated by my classmates. I suffer Cupid's bow syndrome. It's this name I came up with. After I was raped, I couldn't stop checking people out. My eyes would check people out against my will. This was never an issue before I was raped. Also, it grosses me out because I'm asexual. So I have a rough history on me. I'm autistic, schizoaffective, with the rich man's madness, and depression, you name it. I have DID for fuck's sakes. I have a history. This history reflects in my work, but back to the point, since I'm known to be ramble, I'm problematic. If everything you do is under a microscope, then people are bound to notice each and every cell. They're bound to look at the rips. I am not a perfect person. I have done some major bad things. I have gone to points I may never return from. I'm an antagonist in some people's narratives. I have failed. Before you ask, no, I have never killed anybody. For some reason, when I open like this, that's people's assumption. No, I'm not a perfect person. I've made so many mistakes. I make art not for me, but for you. I don't want people to see the cracks in my skin when they read my work. When they enjoy my shows, my videos, or my comics, I want them to enjoy it in an apolitical space while being as welcoming to the marginalized as possible. It's a sweet imagination, but it can't be done. I can't pretend I'm not a Democratic Republican, that I'm not a leftist and full of SJW in the past, and I can't pretend I still don't wear the term with pride. But I don't want people to see me as politics. I want people to see art. I was watched Mr. Enter where he was ranting the opposite opinion to what I shared with you. It seemed more ego-driven than anything else. Politics divide us. The left sees politics as an issue of injustice. The right sees politics as an issue of control. I know most right-leaning people would never look twice at me. I'm not afraid to explain my stances, and I'm not afraid to tell you when I'm not educated on something, but don't look at what I believe when I write for you. Look at the work itself. I hate that I'm so problematic, that I have done things I can't even name, some of which illegal. I can't pretend I never stole or dated someone with an age gap. I can't pretend I didn't do that. They weren't a minor, but still. I feel like I've done a lot wrong. The call-out posts you can make from this journal alone. It's just I hate myself, okay? I've done so much bad shit. I know one day it's going to catch up with me. Somebody will leak DMs or make up false accusations. I used to be friends with a kid named Crocker who falsely accused people of shit from time to time via call-out posts. God, if you could vet the scumbags I chose to hang out with, you'd see drama upon regret. Am I still a monster? No, but I don't have a plan. One of my favorite quotes of myself is, maybe that monster is really nice and has a plan, you don't know. Back when I villainized myself to such a degree, I suck so much. My self-loathing isn't on constant anymore. I used to hate myself to the degree I thought if I killed myself, the world would be a better place. But the world doesn't care, does it? It doesn't. I could disappear right now and nobody would warn me. I just want something. I don't know what, but I'm terrified. Because I am the way I am, I know success is just around the corner. I know that one day I'll have a spotlight on me, and then just like with Morgan, the world will see the cracks, and the world will turn. Dionysius Elric 4-28-20, 4:39 p.m.